Hey guys, Shanti Phillips here with my June 10th DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays that I received to review and talk about over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, enjoy these update videos. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below when you guys thought of titles I checked out and reviewed this update. Any titles coming up you guys like me to review for future updates, and some of the things you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first one I got from Shout Factory's Shout Select line is a movie called Trespass. This is one I had never seen before, and it stars Bill Paxton, Ice-T, William Sadler, and Ice Cube. And it's basically about Bill Paxton and William Sadler's character. They're both these firefighters, and they end up discovering, I believe it was William Sadler's character discovers this map, and like it was a building that was like on fire, and the guy had died in there, and they found this map that was like to this treasure that this guy had found, and then they thought that he kind of hid it somewhere in this church building, kind of like apartment, kind of weird complex building, and they believe that it's there. So William Sadler and Bill Paxton agree to go together to try and take the map and find, if they can actually find this treasure, because they found like papers about it, about this stuff had gone missing, all this gold and stuff, and they really want to try and find it. So they go out to this area, and it's in this abandoned area in a really, really rough neighborhood that's kind of all abandoned. All the places are boarded up, and there's a lot of gang activity and all kind of drugs and homeless people and all kind of stuff in there. And they discover, wander into where they believe the treasure is and start digging around and, putting holes throughout this building. And they find this homeless man in there, and they start, yelling at him, going, "We're in here trying to do something." So there's a whole thing with that. But what ends up happening, though, is Ice-T and Ice Cube, they're having like this kind of, they wander into this building because this is kind of where their gang hangs out, and they end up, killing somebody, and they, Bill Paxton's character sees this happen, and then, they end up, Bill Paxton and William Sadler kind of find themselves trapped in this place, and they take Ice-T's brother and hold him hostage, because they know that if they don't hold him hostage, because he's part of their gang, that they're going to probably get killed. It's kind of them boarding themselves up into this room, where they were digging around trying to find the gold and stuff, and it's kind of them just trying to survive and figuring out how they're going to get out of this situation, what they're going to do, because no one really is coming around this area because it's all kind of abandoned, dilapidated stuff. So it's kind of them there trying to figure out what they're going to do. At the same time, they want to see if they can actually find this gold and the treasure that's in there as well. I love this movie. It kind of had a similar feel a little bit to that movie Judgment Night. Sort of kind of vibe to this, but this is one of those movies that I don't know how I never saw this till now. It was just such a cool movie. Absolutely love this movie. Really great transfer in here, and it has a whole bunch of new features on here. It has an interview with William Sadler, interview on here with Bob Gale, who was the writer of this one, and Bob Gale is probably most known for writing and producing. I think he wrote, but I know he produced the Back to the Future films, and it also Robert Zemeckis wrote this movie as well, and it also has some featurettes on here about the stunts, as well as the weapons, and then some deleted scenes, but a really great release for, like I've said, a movie I don't know how I never saw till now. The next one here is from Shout Factory's Scream Factory line, and this movie, I had not seen this movie in years, and I think I remember, I think I saw the second movie a lot more, because the second movie was PG-13, so I was always, like, as a kid, able to watch that one, so I didn't see this one too much. I think I only ever probably saw this, like, edited on TV, so I don't think I have, like I said, it's been a really long time since I saw this movie. It's a movie starring Pierce Brosnan called The Lawnmower Man. This is a really cool release because it has on here the theatrical cut and the director's cut of the movie. The director's cut, I think, is it's like 33 minutes long or something like that. And it's got a whole bunch of different stuff, because they really changed around some things that happened, like a lot of really different stuff, in the director's cut. That's definitely the one I would say to watch, because it kind of explains, because it's one of those movies where a lot of stuff is kind of left, you don't know too much, and the director's cut explains a lot more things that are not explained as much. But it's basically, though, about Pierce Brosnan's character, who's working at this company developing kind of like the 3D virtual reality type stuff, and he believes that in the future it will kind of become something that can be done for weapons, and like the army can use it and stuff, and he's kind of doing the trials, and he's working with this monkey, and things go terribly wrong with the monkey, and the monkey ends up killing this guy, and the whole thing with virtual reality gets really screwed up, and he doesn't know what he's going to do, so he's back at his house trying to figure out what went wrong, and he wants to do more testings, and he finds that he can do what he wants to do as the gardener, who's the guy who cuts the grass. He's learning disabled and has special needs and stuff like that, and very low IQ and stuff, and he ends up, you know, convincing him to kind of go and play these games that he's in, you know, working on the virtual reality, and it's making him smarter. He's like, well, I can make you smarter, and he starts to get this intelligence, but things start to go very wrong, and he starts having these kind of weird abilities, and weird things start to happen with, you know, these tests and stuff with the guy that they're doing that on, who's the guy who cuts the grass, and he kind of, people are noticing like, well, he's really different. He seems like really, he's got like getting really smart, doesn't seem like the same person at all, and they're kind of like wondering what is going on here, and that's essentially what it is. And there's these really cool scenes though of like in the virtual reality world and stuff. The movie always kind of reminded me of that episode of Married with Children when Bud Bundy goes into that virtual reality world. I think that's probably like one of my favorite episodes, and probably when I feel like one of like the top 10 like, you know, most known episodes of that is Bud Bundy in that virtual reality world and things don't go right. But you know, it kind of has that sort of feel to this. Like I said, it has the director's cut and the theatrical cut, as well as a whole bunch of features on here. It has like a new I think it's like a 50-minute documentary, and they have Jeff Fahey on here, interviews with the director, commentary track on here, behind-the-scenes production skill, you know, stills on here. So tons of different features on here. Really great release, and it also has the original artwork as well if you guys are interested inside. And I always like this original poster for the movie as well. So that's in here as well. But a cool Pierce Brosnan movie that it was filmed like right around the exact same time that he did Mrs. Doubtfire. So I kind of like to think he went almost from this to Mrs. Doubtfire or vice versa, like doing that. The next one here is from Scream Factory as well, and this movie right now is available exclusively at Walmart, so it's an exclusively at Walmart release, and then it's going to be everywhere in like I think like a 2 months or something like that. It's a movie called Don't Knock Twice, and the cover for this movie is so cool. There's just something really cool about this like ghastly hand and stuff, and this was actually a pretty cool movie. The main actress on this movie was recently in the Black Coat's Daughter, and I didn't even notice it was her at first because she has a really different look and had a British accent in this one. And like I said, it's called Don't Knock Twice, and it's basically though about this mother who, you know, for one reason or another had to give up her daughter when she was younger, and she's kind of, the daughter's now in school, and she's like, you know, probably like 17, about to be out of school, and she kind of wants to come back into the daughter's life, and she's like, well, I've got this place out here now, and you can kind of move back in with me and my new boyfriend, and, you know, I know things went wrong when we were younger, and she really doesn't want to do that, the daughter. She wants to kind of stay at this boarding school type place. But then, though, her and her boyfriend go out one night to this, like, abandoned kind of, like, old, haunted, weird house. And there's, like, always these rumors about this witch woman that lived there. And if you knock on the door 2 times, the witch woman kind of comes and haunts you. And, of course, though, she goes and does that, knocks on the door, and then her boyfriend goes missing from this because the witch woman took the boyfriend, and she doesn't know what to do. So she ends up having to go back with the mother, and she's, you know, reluctantly has to move in with her, and she's being haunted by this woman, and there's like she's seeing all these weird things, and like this woman cutting her own throat, and all these creepy images, and there's some actually very creepy images in this movie. It has like a kind of a 70s horror movie, kind of a Conjuring kind of feel to it. I actually like this one. It's not perfect in every aspect, but there were some things in this too, like especially like the end that got really creepy. The beginning and the end I thought were the best of. The middle is where it kind of, you know, isn't perfect, but then it really picks up at the end. But I like the concept of this, and the what, you know, the thing that they're seeing, this woman, is actually pretty creepy. It's a very strange kind of like real super thin person they had like in this suit, and it definitely gave it a very creepy vibe. But it has on here though a making a featurette and a theatrical trailer. The next one here, and this is a very cool set, and they've been recently, you know, releasing a lot of this director's films. Inquisition came out recently, and this is, you know, the Paul Naschy collection. I believe that's how you say his name, collection here, and this is 5 Paul Naschy films here, and he's, you know, a director who did films in Spain. These are really cool movies, and he did all kind of different ones. They were all kind of like werewolf films, movies that dealt with like mummies. They're all kind of like his takes on them. And it has in here the 5 films. It has Horror Rises from the Tomb. It has Vengeance of the Zombies, Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll, Human Beasts, and Night of the Werewolf. These are movies too that always kind of released under a lot of different titles. So they have a whole bunch of different, like, you know, alternate names and stuff like that to them. Some of them too, don't read into them too if you haven't seen them. them. Like, don't read into them too much on IMDb, because it kind of like tells you a little bit, like with the alternate titles, a little bit that you might not want to know. But it has like a booklet in here with things about the movies, you know, facts and stuff like that, some pictures and all kind of stuff about them. A very, very cool release here. The one that I want to talk about movie-wise on here, but also too, it's got a lot of features. It has commentary tracks on here, and it has all the English dubbed as well. So if you guys are wondering, it has the dubbed versions of all the movies, as well as each movie too is on its own disc. So they're not like you know, 2 or 3 movies on one disc. It's each film has its own disc. But the one I wanted to talk about is one on here called Human Beasts, and that one was like, I really love that movie. It was basically though about this guy who is like hired to steal these jewels, like these diamonds, from this guy, and you know, he kind of, you know, his girlfriend kind of gets him this job of, you know, stealing this, because he's the kind of guy who, like, hitman kind of guy who steals things and stuff, this criminal. But he ends up, you know, betraying his girlfriend and the guy that he's working for, running off with the jewels, and he ends up getting shot. And this family ends up finding him and taking him into their castle-type house and kind of nursing him back to health. And it's a really weird situation going on there. And he's like kind of there, really sickly. And he's like, "Why are you helping me? And why is it you wanted me to help me?" And the daughters like are both kind of like falling in love with him, his character. And it's just like this really odd stuff going on. And it all leads up to something too. And like I said, I read into it a little bit, so I kind of like got something spoiled by reading like alternate titles and stuff to the movie. But there was a really, really cool movie. All of his movies though are really cool, and he's like I said, his takes on werewolf films and zombie movies. I don't know, I really like his stuff, the stuff that I've been watching. Like I said, I just started watching through these movies, but really, really cool set. And if you guys are fans of these too, picture quality and all these are great. And they also, I believe they're all like the full complete versions of all of them, because like even like the Human Beast had a couple parts where they had like subtitles put in that were kind of like burned in, so they obviously like, you know, were like the extended cuts of the ones. And the next one here from Lionsgate, from the Vestron video line, is a movie called The Unholy, and this is one that I had never seen before. I didn't know much about this one at all. It's a pretty interesting movie though, about this priest who is trying to help this guy who's like about to jump off of a building, and you know, he ends up getting pulled off and falls all these feet, and then somehow he, you know, doesn't get injured whatsoever, and he's like totally, you know, nothing happened to him whatsoever. And then the, you know, kind of like the archbishops and stuff, like a Catholic church, kind of hear about him and believe that like he has something about him, and they end up wanting him to go into this church where years back this one priest was murdered by this like woman. They don't really know what had happened, and they kind of want him to come there and take over this church that had been abandoned for years, and just one woman was kind of watching it, just keeping the building up, and they want him to come over there. Of course, though, once he starts to come over to this church, he kind of wants to figure out exactly what had happened to this priest, you know, that died there, and why he died. And it's kind of him kind of looking into that priest's past and kind of figuring out about, he was going to this like sadomasochism club that was like with these satanic worshipers kind of thing. And the club was run by the dad from Boy Meets World. It was a really, really different kind of role to see him in, because he had like this dyed blonde hair and this really freaky look to him, because he was like playing this kind of weird satanic kind of preacher kind of guy at this weird club. But he goes there and starts talking to this woman who the one priest was trying to help and get out of this business that she was in. And of course, though, weird things start to happen to this priest while he's at this church, and he's kind of trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And there's some, and at the end of this movie though, the last like 20 minutes are amazing. It gets like, it just totally insane. It's like that's the thing with this movie, is it's a total build up to the last part of this movie. This is just totally nuts. This is just it was a really creepy movie. Like I said, I had never heard of this one. Never seen this one before. It has on here though lots of features, because the Vestron releases, they always put tons of features on them. It has on there a commentary track with the director, an isolated score, an audio interview on here with the composer, and had really cool music as well. Audio interview with the production designer on here, some featurettes on here, you know, about the making of the movie, as well as a thing on here with the original ending to the movie, as well as theatrical trailers, storyboard gallery, so a whole bunch of different features on this one, but a really pretty cool, like, satanic church kind of creepy movie. The next one here from Lionsgate as well is the 4K release of John Wick Chapter 2, and I have to say first, I think this one, I like this one a lot better than the first John Wick. The first John Wick, though, was a really, really cool movie, but I felt like this movie, like, really stepped it up and just, like, went insane, like, to total insane insane levels of what was going on, because without ruining too much about the first movie, if you guys haven't seen the first movie, you know that John Wick's, it was basically all about his dog was killed, Keanu Reeves' dog in the first movie, and he goes and gets revenge on the person responsible for that, because like he's a character who is a hitman who is kind of retired and done with it, but his dog gets killed, so he goes after the people. And this movie is kind of the repercussions of what happened and what he did in the first movie, and now he's like the #1 wanted man. There's like a bounty on his head, and he can't really go anywhere because everywhere he goes, because like they in the whole network of this whole thing, they like text each other, and all the like the fellow hitman and his group are all kind of getting these texts that John Wick is #1 wanted. There's a big bounty on his head. So everywhere he's going, there's all these people after him trying to kill him and trying to hunt him down. And Ruby Rose is in this playing a hit woman who's trying to get him. And the whole thing is just him going through these nightmare situations of, having to kill people one after another, and these crazy situations, and even a thing that involves a pencil, which is an amazing thing involving a pencil. Keanu Reeves, though, is so good in these kind of roles. When it comes to, like, my favorite Keanu Reeves, it's always going to be Bill and Ted, but when it comes to, like, the second favorite, I think, like, comedy, and then these kind of, like, insane action are his, like, absolute best movies. But this has on here, the 4K edition of the movie, deleted scenes on here, a number of different featurettes on here about training John Wick, a whole lot of stuff on here, theatrical trailer, commentary track on here with Keanu Reeves and the director, but the 4K on this movie is absolutely amazing. This is like one of those movies that the whole movie has a very neon kind of super bright color scheme to it, and the 4K, the high dynamic range is the big thing with that. It really enhances that, and high dynamic range really can bring out certain colors that you don't get in the Blu-ray release of the movie. Like way brighter pictures and everything, and a sharper picture as well. But the high dynamic range, the HDR, the high dynamic range is, I feel like, the biggest thing with 4K that really, really enhances the movie. But this is a movie, though, if you have 4K, definitely would recommend this one in 4K. And like I said, I enjoyed this one way more than the first movie. Like, as cool as the first movie was, this one just took it to even more extreme levels. The next one here from Lionsgate as well, and this is a movie that aired on Lifetime. It's a movie called Showing Roots. This has Maggie Grace, from the Taken films, and then Uzo Aduba. I know I'm saying the name totally wrong, but she's, plays Crazy Eyes in Orange is the New Black, and this is a movie that's set during the time, I think it was 1977, right at the same time when they were going to be airing the miniseries Roots. And it's in this small kind of southern town, and it's all about how, at that time, how racism and that kind of stuff is still going on, even in 1977, which I didn't even know at that point it was still as prevalent as it was. And like it deals, though, with the one... who comes into town. It's Adam Brody's kind of coming into town to work at this kind of like construction site to try and start hiring more African Americans. And this construction site, like, they don't want that going on. They have all kind of problems because it's a real backwards kind of town, and they're like not letting that happen. And Maggie Grace's character is a hairdresser who works with Crazy Eyes character. Like I say, I'm saying her name totally wrong. And they kind of become friends at this hair salon that they're working at. But, Maggie Grace's character wants to do these kind of crazy, out there kind of haircuts, and they don't like that, and they end up firing her for doing that. And they end up wanting to kind of plan and open up their own hair salon right across the street from the other one as kind of the competition. And the whole movie, though, is kind of their friendship and trying to work on this, and then all the kind of stuff going on in the town with why Roots is airing, which is a big thing at the time. But then all the kind of racism and that kind of stuff and the backwards kind of stuff going on in this town. It's a very, very well done movie. Like I said, this was a movie for Lifetime. It has on here a behind the scenes of Showing Roots on this one. The next one from Lionsgate as well is a movie called Everybody Loves Somebody. This is actually a pretty good movie. This is from the their company, the Panthelon, that they produced, How to Be a Latin Lover. I believe they produced How to Be a Latin Lover. And this is a movie... basically all about this woman who is a doctor, and she ends up needing to go to her parents' wedding, and she doesn't have a date, so she ends up meeting this one fellow doctor who just starts working with her, and she's like, oh, would you come to the wedding with me? I need to have a date there, because like my parents are gonna look at me if I don't have anybody, and they're always like up on me about getting married and all that kind of stuff. So she ends up going and bringing him, and it's kind of like it's kind of like the whole thing about that, but then at the same time, the they don't really know each other, so it's kind of an awkward thing there. But they kind of like each other, but then the one woman's old boyfriend is there at this wedding. And then things kind of get awkward, and it's kind of like her trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life, if she wants to go back with the old guy or wants to pursue a relationship with the new guy that she met, that she took, you know, there. It's like that kind of a thing, and it's like a character piece about, you know, not knowing which direction in life that she wants to go, and, you know, if she wants to try and date somebody who's Hispanic as well to try and make her parents happy, or she wants to date this new guy who's from Australia, and it's like this whole thing that try and, like, you know, if she wants to make her parents happy or she wants to do what makes her happy. And I thought, like I said, I thought it was a pretty interesting movie here. The next one from, this is one from Anchor Bay, and this movie was, really loved this movie. This is a movie too, they saw the trailer for this movie a couple years back, and then it got delayed, and I didn't know when it was coming out, and I think it had a different name at first as well. It's a movie called, you know, starring Naomi Watts, Elle Fanning, and Susan Sarandon. It's called Three Generations, and it's starring, you know, Elle Fanning, and she plays a transgendered boy. She's, you know, in the early stages of transitioning, and it's kind of, you know, her character, you know, and she wants to go through the hormone treatments, and her mother, or his mother, is, you know, okay with the idea, but the thing is, like, since she was, you know, the mother was married and before with with the father, they hadn't seen each other in like 8 or 9 years, but she has to find him to get him to sign off on the release to allow the hormone treatment to go through, even though the mother has not seen him in years. And it deals with the whole thing of her trying to find him, and at the same time, Naomi Watts isn't so sure that she wants to have her son, you know, go through this, because she's worried about the whole thing, and she's worried that if she signs it and then gets the father to sign it, then it's going to really happen. And Susan Sarandon, who's Naomi Watts' mother, is a lesbian, but then it's kind of showing how she's like, you know, you would think that since she was lesbian, she would be accepting of Elle Fanning's character and decision to transition and coming out as a transgender male, but she's not, and she's kind of backwards about the whole thing, and she's the one who's like really against it. So it's a very interesting look at the whole thing. I really, really love this movie. I'm a big fan of Elle Fanning. She did a really good job in this role. She also was making like a kind of documentary about her, you know, his life, you know, throughout the thing as well, kind of about, you know, when he found out that he was transgender and all that kind of stuff. It's a very, very interesting movie. Like I said, I really absolutely love this movie. Definitely one of the better movies in a long time on this subject, but it has on here deleted and extended scenes, but definitely worth checking out here. The next one I got from Warner Brothers, they sent over a free copy of this one to check out. I actually didn't get to see this one in theaters. This is, you know, the Lego Batman movie. This is basically, you know, done in the style of the Lego movie, which I really like the Lego movie. And I like these, you know, the Lego type films that they're doing, because it kind of takes it to like a real spoof kind of level and a real over-the-top kind of humor. And that's taking, you know, the Batman character in this, and it's kind of a mix of like all the Batmans, and also like the classic Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, and kind of all of them kind of mixed together, and kind of like spoofing the voice, you know, the Batman, like the Christian Bale's Batman voice was real like, bro, do this, Batman. So it's kind of like a mix of all that, and this is kind of showing, you know, in an alternate version of Batman, kind of how Batman ends up accidentally adopting Robin in this form, and it's like the Joker is trying to put together this whole group of all these villains to try and take over, you know, Gotham City and like be the ruler of everything. So it's kind of up to Batman and Alfred to try and stop him, and it's kind of, they're all getting into all kind of problems and all kind of issues along the way. And it's, like I said, it's done, you know, the same producers who were, you know, produced and, you know, who directed the Lego movie, you know, came on as this one as producers. I don't think they wrote this movie, I don't believe, but it's got that same, like I said, kind of vibe to it. And I think there's going to be another Lego movie coming out too. It's like a Lego Ninja movie, I believe. I believe that's going to be the next one. But I think these are really, really fun movies. And they're also not the kind of movies where it's like only kids can watch them. I think these are really good for adults and kids as well, just because they've got like kind of subtle kind of humor and stuff in there for adults and stuff that kids may not all pick up on. But really, really fun movie. Definitely one too that looks great on 4K. I feel like animation really, really pops in 4K, because the big thing I always say, you know, with 4K is the high dynamic range, which is all about the colors. So that, you know, since it's animation, it's got lots of great colors to this, and it really, really pops out and brings out the colors too for the 4K. So if you have 4K, this is definitely one of the things that I would say is one of the top of the line kind of things to look at in 4K. Like I said, animation really, really works well in 4K. It has on here too 4 new original animated shorts on here, 4 deleted scenes, and a bunch of featurettes on the making of this movie as well. But a really, really fun movie, and definitely, you know, look forward to seeing, you know, the other Lego movies that are coming out. And I think there's going to be a Lego movie too as well. I believe, you know, an actual sequel to the Lego movie, because this is, you know, the spin-off movie, but in the same universe though as the Lego movie. And the next one from E1 and Momentum Entertainment is a movie called Voice from the Stone. This is one I was really interested in seeing. This stars Emilia Clarke, and it's basically, she kind of comes to this kind of castle where there's this boy who, after his mother died, he totally stopped talking. He won't say a word to anybody. The father is very concerned because he hasn't spoken at all, and he's like hoping that the son will talk. So Emilia Clarke comes there to try and sort of be the doctor to kind of talk to him and see if she can figure out exactly what is causing this and if there's any way to make him speak again. But of course, though, when she gets there, there's something very odd about the whole situation. It's one of those movies, though, where I figured out a couple things too early, and I don't know why I fixed, like, one thing, I'm like, why did I figure that out so early? Like, since the very first time, I'm like, I figured this one thing out, and I'm like, I don't know why I figured that out so early on in this movie. But it's one of those super creepy kind of movies. I don't know what I would say, kind of like Crimson Peak kind of feel to it a little bit, of that kind of ghost story, because like the son is always listening to the wall and believes that he hears like the mother's like talking through this wall and whispering and stuff. And there's some very weird characters in this. Like there's this one old guy who's like kind of like the groundskeeper, and this old woman who is always like talking to Emilia Clarke about things, and it's just a really creepy kind of thing. It reminded me too, like the setting a little bit like of a creepier version of like The Secret Garden. I really like this movie, but it's like, it's kind of like a haunted kind of feeling type movie, and you don't really know up until the end exactly what type of, you know, vibe it's going on here. But it's like a creepy thing about her trying to get to the bottom of this, but then, you know, figure out what's going on with this kid, and she get him to talk. Then she starts to kind of having a relationship too with the father, and he's like, you know, this painter and stuff, and it's just, I don't know, I really like this movie. It's not going to be for everybody. It's got that, like I said, that kind of Crimson Peak kind of feel to the whole thing, and it's not like, it's a very, very super slow burn film, so take that in, you know, and keep that in mind. It's a real actor piece kind of movie, you know, character piece. But I really did enjoy this one, and also, you know, Evanescence, the singer from Evanescence, did the song during the end credits, which is amazing. Like, the song in the end credits was absolutely amazing. Absolutely love that song. The next one here from Blue Underground. This is one I had never seen before. It's a movie called Deathline, and this stars Donald Pleasence. Christopher Lee, though, he's only in this movie for like 3 minutes, but it's called Deathline. And I wonder how they got him to do it, because it was like a real quick little cameo. But it's basically, though, about this couple who are down the, you know, the underground London subway, and they find this guy who, like, was passed out down there, and she's like, oh, something's wrong with him, he might be sick, he could be dying, and the boyfriend's like, oh, well, he's probably just drunk and stuff. She's like, no, we gotta tell somebody, we gotta find a cop and tell them. Of course, they go to find the cop, they take the cop back down there. Even though the subway's now closed, there's no way this guy could have left. He's now vanished. Donald Pleasence is in here as the cop, and he's like really, really bothering the two of them. He's like, well, what happened? And because like she looked through the guy's pocket too, and they found him down there to see if he had diabetes and had a card, so they knew the guy's name and stuff. And he's Donald Pleasence is like, how'd you know this guy's name? Could you read? Was it written on his head? Like, and he's like saying, well, what were you doing down there, and why were you doing this? And it's basically like these two really shouldn't have said anything because it's caused all these problems. But Donald Pleasence is like getting obsessed with like, what exactly happened to this guy, and where did he go, and are they making this up, and what had happened? So it's kind of them looking into this, but you know, without really ruining anything, you can tell too there's some creepy somebody down there in this subway wandering around with up to no good, and there's some very, very weird stuff going on down there. I really like this movie. It's got a very creepy movie. It's got a super creepy setting too, down this underground tunnels. They made a movie too in 2005 called Creep, which is kind of a similar movie to this one. That one was like a woman, though, trapped down the subway all night with this creepy person. But this one is like, you know, them kind of going down there and investigating and trying to figure it out. It also made me think a little bit, too, of like Chud and Mimic. And like, you know, because those came way later. But like those kind of movies are all set down in the subway. But this is a very creepy movie. It has on here, though, a commentary track with the co-writer and director on here. Tales from the Tube. Interview on here with the director and the executive producer. Interviews with the star on here. The trailer. It also had the alternate title of the Deathline, and has on here too the DVD version of the movie as well. The next one too from Blue Underground as well is the Christopher Lee double feature here of the Fu Manchu films. This has the Blood of Fu Manchu and the Castle of Fu Manchu, and I think Christopher Lee was in like maybe 2 more of the Fu Manchu films, I believe. I think these were part 3 and 4. I might be totally wrong on that. But Fu Manchu, Nicolas Cage even played like a version of him in that trailer in Grindhouse. Like, but it's basically, though, Christopher Lee plays this Asian supervillain who's kind of like up to no good in these films, and he's planning on like taking over the world and killing his enemies. And the one movie, he comes up with this thing about this poison, and he wants to, infect these women with him to kiss his enemies, and then they're die from them. And the other one is about him trying to invent this weapon that will freeze the oceans. These are just really, really fun, super, cheesy, weird kind of movies. Really, really great transfers on all these ones as well. And they have on here interviews on here. And, Jess Franco, who produced a lot of exploitation films, made these movies. But really, really fun movies. Like I said, I think there might have been like 2 or 3 other ones as well that I think Christopher Lee was in. And the last one here is a movie from Gravita's Ventures. I think that's how you say it. I always feel like I'm saying the company's name wrong. But it's a movie called Aaron's Blood. And this is one I was really interested in seeing. This was a cool movie. It's about this this kid who's a hemophiliac, which means, if you get hit or anything like that, you bleed out and you have a really hard time with, like, clotting and stuff with your blood and stuff. And the kid ends up, he's getting bullied in school, and his father's like, well, you gotta try and, you know how dangerous it is if you got hurt. And this one bully, though, that the kid tripped him to try and get back at him. And the dad's like, you shouldn't have done that. The guy might do something to you. And, of course, though, the bully knocks him over, and the kid, bleeds out of his nose and starts bleeding to death, is in the hospital, dying, and he has to have a blood transfusion. And as soon as the kid gets out of the hospital, something is like really weird has happened. The kid is like all of a sudden like really good at basketball and has all these abilities and is like super like, he basically he can be cut and heal, and something is going on, and it's something to do though with like an aspect of being a vampire. So it's kind of like the father comes to realize that there's something very wrong with the son, and somehow the son was infected with vampire blood. And that's kind of all I really want to say about what happens in this, but this father has to figure out what he's going to do. But this was a really, really well done movie. Like, I thought this was actually really cool vampire movie, and like a different kind of vampire movie. And it really relies too on the father and son, and their relationship, and the father trying to help his son and figure out what he's going to do. It kind of has the Let the Right One In sort of feel to this movie, that kind of vampire type feel a little bit. But I really, really like this movie. It has on here though introduction to the movie, a making of, deleted scenes, and behind the scenes on this one. But definitely, if you guys like vampire movies and want to see a different one, definitely give this one a chance. Really, really would highly recommend this one. But anyway though, guys, that's all for this new update. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.